Hi, welcome once again to Virtual Vision FM, your platform to all things spiritual. As I can see today, we have a chat room that is very animated. So everyone, keep talking, keep your comments going, and as the program progresses, you will be able to ask Brad some questions. First of all, though, I want to bring on my wonderful co-hosts, Ted Woodruff in the UK, as well as Nina Ashby, who's also in the UK. Hi, guys. How you doing?
Oh, I'm tired. I don't know if anybody else had any trouble sleeping last night, but I had the eclipse exactly trying my son, and I felt like I was plugged into the electrical socket. I couldn't sleep at all, and I've been working all day, and I'm a little bit kind of frazzled now, but yeah, I'm surprised I'm still going, but obviously I'm supercharged with eclipse energy.
Right. Actually, I slept really well last night, but I have had issues the past week. So, yeah, who knows what tonight will bring, but I'm positive. I'm positive all is well. Ted, how about you?
Me, actually, I made out earlier that I'd had 12 hours in a row, and that was absolutely not true. Um, I, I didn't put it down to any planet in alignment with anything else. I just thought it was me. But yeah, I did the wake up at 6 job in the morning, stayed up for a couple of hours, and then went back and found myself 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So, but hey, you know, you need a day sometimes where you just do that. You know, that sort of stuff. But yeah, there's probably something going on in the planets or the new moon or something peculiar happening in the atmosphere. Or I just work extremely hard and I need to have a rest sometimes.
Well, that's perfectly fine too. We discussed last week what planetary alignments are and what they can bring and how we can transmute that into positive energy. So that was really quite an interesting show. I know that the past 2 weeks have been one of great energy shifts for me, and it's made me quite introspective and isolated by choice. So, you know, it's all turning around, and this is the time. It's a pivotal time, I think. We'll see what our guest has to say about this as well um, later on. But I think there's a lot of things that people are going through. They're purging a lot and don't realize it. When you become aware, then the purging actually can be fun, but if you're resisting everything that's occurring to you, then it does produce some challenges. So the key here is to relax, and that's that RE for retro, for Mercury as well. So just relax and go with the flow. It's all is well. So how did your event go last weekend, Ted? You were not with us, and you didn't have Wi-Fi out in the field. So can you tell us a little bit as to how that went?
Yes, emphasis on the little bit, because it could. I was thinking about this today. It could be a whole show in itself, because it really was.
Digest version, please.
I'll give you a slimmed down version. Yeah, well, bearing in mind that I've been sort of so directed to do what I'm doing here at Turns the Namaste Group for the last sort of 8 months with a sort of intensive and yet willingness to do it, if you know what I mean, that vision and that calling and that drive to complete it. I actually had a weekend where I chilled for the first time in a very, very long time. In fact, since Mum passed, because it's been absolutely fast and furious, but exceptional. And I was out in the middle of a field in to the west of Kent in East Sussex, not far away actually from here, about 25 miles. And I went armed with my van and bean bags and supplies. I had Maxie looked after, and we were literally out in the middle of the Sussex countryside in a very large field with several sort of tents and venues and whatever around, a big marquee like a teepee at the top, and then a big marquee, which it was essentially a music festival. And the headline act was Eddie and the Hot Rods, of which some people know, some don't. But there were also very sort of more my type of thing. There was a guy called Sika, S-I-K-A, who he lives in New Zealand, but he spent a lot of time with the Aborigines, the native Aborigines in Australia, and other native sort of races. And he's a great not boomerang player. What is it? A didgeridoo. Yeah, didgeridoo. He plays, but he couples it with his Apple computer, and so he managed. He's got an amazing act. Now, I'm not sure what they're called, but they're on a piece of string, and then you wave them around in the air with a woo, woo, woo going on. Anyway, that doesn't touch on what this guy's like. He generates a journey in meditation for you, which is just beyond belief. That the meditation, I found myself sitting cross-legged, and I don't sit cross-legged very comfortably as a rule, and went on a fantastic journey. Yeah, so essentially a music festival, but we took along, you know, our healing couches and gifts and whatever. And, you know, as I say, for 8 months I've been at it, if not physically, sort of mentally and emotionally and psychologically, and I just chilled for 3 days. I actually took my own armchair with me, which got a little mockery from people, but I tell you what, I was the most comfortable guy in that field because I had my comfy armchair with me, and so I was quite happy, so I don't care what anybody else thought. It was very emotional, a lot of it, because I guess I was chilling and relaxing completely. I connected with one particular guy, and this is where I'll leave it after this part because I could talk about it for ages. A guy called James, who Glynis, who I used to work very closely with until she moved up north to Wales. The guy called Jim, I can't remember his surname. Anyway, long story short, he turned out to be an angelic shaman, but I didn't know this until after he'd worked on me. Now, I've yet to talk to John David about this, but I tell you what, I'm due to go up to Hornsey in the very near future. It'll be either the beginning of October or one week into it. This guy has blended me in the Native American and the angelic, in the sense that I resonate, as most people know, with the angels and the archangels, the angelic realm. There was a slight clash, I felt, not a major, universal sort of clash, but there was a need to get the two blended, which I didn't kind of click until he did this. I am now blended between the two disciplines, and I'll tell you what, it was one of the emotional, most profound moments when he did what he did. And I'll explain that in a future program because it's not complex, but it's a little detailed and very, very profound. So yeah, all in all, it was fabulous. I wish I could have been broadcasting from there, but you are, as I suspected, out in the middle of the field. There's no Wi-Fi, and unless I had this thing called 4G, it couldn't have happened. But I've shared a video, and there's a few pictures of what was going on. But in many ways, if you guys can get down there next year, those of you in the UK and whatever, and experience it, it is absolutely wonderful. It's a mixture, as I say, of music. It's a mixture of spiritual. There's very random people ambling around doing yoga and exercising and throwing axes at targets, and it's just great. It's just a place to chill. The weather was fairly kind to us, and yeah, awesome. Thank you for asking. And I wish you guys could have been with me, but it's just, modern technology. I haven't got 4G, so I couldn't do anything about it.
Well, I'm glad it was successful. I'm glad that there were experiences there that are so profound. I think we run a risk of being complacent sometimes, where all of a sudden we're hit with different experiences that do resonate very, very deeply, and it's always such a treat. That's the way I kind of look at it. Nina, how about you? How was your week?
I had a busy week. Working with clients, and I found that a lot of people really going through shedding stuff. It's like the last round of shedding stuff. They had realizations, and then kind of just like, oh, okay, I'm ready to let go now. So that was really interesting, and doing some quite deep, able to do some quite deep Akashic healing work with people. That's been, it's like something else opened at the higher level, and people are responding to that at a really unconscious level, making it conscious. So people who wouldn't normally kind of want to do that particular kind of deep work, just saying, okay, I'm ready now. So that's what I've been finding, which has been quite interesting.
Yeah, I found that a lot of my clients are at a pivotal time where purging and offloading are crucial. And so just trying to assist in that process is quite rewarding, actually, when people begin to understand how simple it is. It's
Yeah.
just so simple, and yet we tend to make it as human beings more complicated than what it needs to be. So there has been a lot of that, and I'm just so thrilled that there are people situated everywhere on this planet that are of service to help people through these really high energy times and make the most out of what the opportunity is presenting. So good on you, Nina. You're
Well,
tired, but
it's
you
really
did a
interesting.
good job, girlfriend.
Oh, thank you. Well, I mean, we all, those who work with the light and in the light, are being brought the people who we resonate with to be able to be of service. And that's not even necessarily in a formal way. And I think that that's what's so interesting. Yes, we do that for our work, but even in the course of our daily life, I had some wonderful things happen. So I did a party for a group of people who were all having their birthdays, and afterwards the underground was closed. So I was like standing at the corner, and I was like, "Oh, which way do I go?" And this young man, I said, "Are you local?" He said, "Can I help you?" I said, "Well, I'm looking to walk, to this underground." He says, "Oh, come with me." He walked me to the underground station. We had a lovely chat, and it was all, so chilled and lovely, and felt like there was like a communing there of, he was there to help me, I was there to help him, and it was just lovely. So many experiences like that. When you spread the good energy, you get it back. It's wonderful.
It's amazing. As I had mentioned, I've gone into this real quiet time, and it's almost like an inner hibernation, but it's not a hibernation because I'm really doing a lot of work on deeper levels. But you can tell the shift that occurs internally because it's reflected in your external world. And
Yeah.
just for an example, I mean, this just seems ludicrous when I tell it, but really, when does this happen to someone? My daughter and I walked over to the grocery store just last week, and we, as usual, it's typical, we buy too much, and then walking home is a struggle. So we decided to call a cab. And we were standing there, we had all these bags around us, and waiting the typical 20 minutes, half an hour for the cab to arrive. And this woman walked by us and stopped and said, "Oh, excuse me, would you like a ride if it's close by?" And I'm looking at this woman like, did I just hear you right? Because nobody ever does that, right? I looked at her and I said, we've already called a cab, but thank you so much. That was very thoughtful. And she said, hey, we're all in this together, or something along those lines. And off she went. And I thought, that's really interesting. The minute that you begin to align in a specific way, well, in any way, as long as alignment is happening, everything starts to shift and change in your external world. And little things like that really stand out because no one has ever offered to drive us anywhere as we're waiting for a cab for. So, yeah, you don't want to dismiss those kinds of things, just like that guy that walked you the other night, Nina.
Yeah.
You just want to be very grateful and knowing that you're always taken care of and you're always provided for, even when it comes down to a ride, right? We just make things more difficult than what they need to be. And when you get in alignment, when that alignment is true, then all sorts of things start to come, only because it's reciprocal, right? Yeah, it's amazing to me. Every moment of the day, and that's why I can't understand anyone who tells me they're bored, because there's so much going on in every moment that can blow your mind. You just have to know where to place your focus in order to be aware of what is going on in every moment. So I know that you're not going to be with us for long today, Nina. You've had a long, long week. So feel free to retire this evening anytime you like.
Thank you.
Okay, I think what we're going to do right now, though, is go back to Ted, and we're going to have him do the 1 minute me moment, and that will kind of set the stage for our guest today. Ted?
Absolutely. The trouble is with you two ladies talking, I get so much more in my head about how I resonate with what you're saying. And what I just will add before the 1 minute me moment is about resonating with what Nina says about the informality sometimes of learning, that we're all light workers. We may be doing what we're doing very powerfully, but we are still learning, and I'm very glad to assimilate more information. And it's the beauty that it's done in an informal way, but it is so incredibly deeply profound sometimes what happens in a very relaxed atmosphere. And I will again mention this gym guy, because it was a life change, or a real turning point or extra adjunct to what I do. And there have been those people in my life over the years who've had a profound effect on me. John David Parker, who's in the chat room, I will continue to say what an amazing connection that was at the beginning, and has continued and will be for the rest of our time here, and of course beyond. There are people like Era who I've connected with and we've co-hosted for a number of years now, and she's had a profound influence on my way of working and my way of thinking. There's Simon Ludgate, another guest on the show. There's David Icke, obviously, but Simon, you know, he's an extraordinary individual. So whilst I happen to be on the show, and Era's on the show, and Nick and Nina are on the show, just because we're here on Virtual Vision Visual, we are just people, ordinary people doing, you know, on occasions extraordinary things. There are the others who are out there on social media who are doing equally extraordinary things in their own right, but they don't necessarily get known as much as those who you immediately see kind of on the television or say on here. But we're all people doing the same thing, but we're a voice to it and faces to it. So we've got an amazing guest coming up, so I will go through the 1 minute moment now, and then we'll get on to Brad, which is going to be fascinating, folks. So the 1 minute me moment, let's go through this as speedy as I can, in a sense, because you kind of all know it, but there may be newbies in who haven't. But I came up with the idea a few months ago, quite a few months ago now, that we don't get a lot of time to take time for ourselves in the day. We should do, but we don't, and we tend to get into the world rush of work and you know, vehicular transport, and just, you know, stressing ourselves about things. I've fortunately stepped out of that somewhat, and you all can at some point in your life. I came up with the idea that if you took 1 minute out of your day, at least you're doing something for you and you yourself alone. So my idea came up with the 60 seconds of spending time, and there's three things to do in preparation. Is to sit quietly, whether it's in your lunch hour or it's at home when the children are at school, or the partner's at work or whatever. Or equally, as I say, at work, you can get a quiet, literally 1 minute, and sit on a chair, close your eyes and concentrate on your breathing, and do it in through your nose, out through your mouth, in through your mouth and out through your nose, which does then particularly make you concentrate on your breathing. At the same time, ground yourself to Mother Earth. And my version of doing it is to imagine a vine between your ankles that is joining your ankles, and then another one connected to that vine going down, down, down deep into Mother Earth and connecting around a boulder or a tree stump deep, deep down in there. And that grounds you into Mother Earth, stops you floating off in the etheric sort of thing. And again, at the same time as you're breathing and you're grounding, throw this aura of protection around yourself. Whatever color you like. I like gold and I like white. That's just me, but you can use purple, green, any color you particularly resonate with. Concentrate on your breathing. Feel the fact that you're grounded to Mother Earth, and have this auric protection around yourself. And spend that 1 minute connecting to your loved ones. They may have taken the transition to the other side, to the other dimension. They may be your guides, whatever they are. They may be Native American, they may be angelic, they may be loved ones who have passed, they may be loved ones who are still on the earth plane. If you just connect with people who are still with us down here, that's fine. If they resonate and they are meaningful to you, it matters not who you're connecting with if they have an influence on your life. In my case, I still have a connection with my mother, who's parted this mortal coil, but also angelic and angels, as I say so often. But whoever you resonate with, it may be Buddha, it might be Confucius, it might be Socrates, it might be Neptune, it might be any one of the gods, goddesses, whatever your particular faith, belief, religion, calling draws you to. And spend a minute doing that. And I tell you what, if you ground, protect, and connect, you will feel a difference. I try to do it every day. I'm only human. I don't always achieve it, but at the end of each day, I certainly ask the angelics to ground me daily. Give it a try, and Era will be back in a moment with her line, which I won't steal. So try it. That's the Rev Ted 1 Minute Me moment. It works.
Well, thanks, Ted. And my line, as usual, is try it, then deny it. And it works. It does work. You just need to get back to resonating with who you truly are. And you lessen resistance that way. And when there's less resistance, there's less stress, right? So go for it. Have a shot. Today, our guest, I'm really excited about this guest. I just had a brief time interacting with him, and I loved what he had to say, and I was really excited about bringing him on Virtual Vision so that you can all hear what he has to say. What he does is pretty amazing, and let's bring Brad Johnson, the Reality Whisperer, onto the show. And let's learn all about what Reality Whisperer is all about. Hi, Brad.
Hello, Aura. Thank you very much for having me on the program.
Hey. Hey, I was really looking forward to today. So, Brad, the Reality Whisperer, can you just explain to us what that is, how you came about that?
Yeah, it's basically a summarization of many different things that I have learned throughout the course of 7 years. Before 7 years ago, I was not into psychic work. I wasn't into spirituality as I am now. I was very much a different kind of person. And I went through this very strong state of awakening through a book that I wrote. And this book was just a, kind of a fictional book, but I was trying to make it a non-fiction science fiction. And through that creation of a book, I just got massively awoken just by researching a lot of things online, just looking into the extraterrestrial presence, looking into how to communicate with other particular types of beings beyond our world, beyond our dimensional scope. And a lot of the common form of understanding with it was relating to that of meditation. If you go into meditation, you'll be able to connect with these particular types of energies. You'll also look more deeply into yourself, and you'll understand more about the extensions of your own being. So this was very, very fascinating to me. So instead, I decided to put the book aside, and I went and started to pursue meditation. And through the pursuing of meditation, I was able to get very, very deep with it. I was able to go into different states of consciousness. I was going very, very deeply into my own aspects of tapestry, I guess you could say, and just being able to go really deep. And as I went to sleep at night, I started to go through these dream states where I would start attaining information universally that I didn't know before. So I'd wake up knowing things I didn't know before. And so throughout the course of these 7 years, I've started just exploring everything. My mentality is that if I really want to understand something, I want to understand the entire spectrum. And so that related to meditation, that related to energy healing, that related to channeling, that related to psychic development and psychic ability, psychic mastering, that related to mediumship, intuition, Akashic records, remote viewing, a few things like that. But it just started to get much more grandiose. And as I started to make this part of my life and dedicate myself to this full time, I didn't really have a label that I could really put on myself to say, oh, Brad, what is it that you do? And so rather than having like 20 sub-terms, psychic, healer, intuitive, remote viewer, Akashic records reader, etc., all that, I decided to create what's known as Reality Whisperer. And this is basically just giving a summary of everything that I have been able to achieve throughout these 7 years and look into as well too. And I just have this natural ability to really connect in my own way through the universal mind and start receiving information almost on every topic imaginable. So this is basically how I've just referred to myself as a reality whisperer, because we have horse whisperers, we have ghost whisperers, spirit whisperers, etc. And whisperer is just a good term to use in regards to one who can really communicate well within that particular area. And so I thought reality is something I'm very good at communicating with. So I went into reality whispering. So reality whisperer is just that catchy little phrase that I use to really give a summary about many of the different aspects pertaining to spirituality, consciousness, metaphysics, spiritual science, etc., that I involve myself with.
Okay, well that explains it a little better for sure. Thank you for that. It just seems to encompass just about everything. And so the kinds of information that you must be receiving or extracting from vibrations, right, must be pretty profound. I take it you see clients as well, is that correct?
Yeah, and about 95% of the clients that I see are virtual. So I usually just do Skype sessions, phone sessions. There'll be times where I'll do in-person sessions here locally in Vancouver where I am. And sometimes when I'm going to seminars, I'm actually going to a seminar next week, and I'll be seeing a lot of people there as well too. So yeah, clients are very much abundant in my life.
Yeah, so what types of issues do you find that people are most challenged by, that are able to be impacted by what you do? You know what I mean?
Yeah, the challenges that they are going through.
Yeah.
Well, it's challenging to say because I go so deep,
Yeah.
and people, just some people like to stay kind of on the shallow end of spirituality and consciousness, and understanding, just certain forms of issues about their own emotional states, about where they feel they're going in life. I think one of the most popular questions is, what is my purpose on this planet? What am I here to do? Why have I decided to come here at this time? And what should I be doing with my energy? And so I think that's really been a lot of the kind of the personal philosophy and the personal empowerment questions. And that's, I think, a very, very common theme. A lot of people just have a very wide range of themes, like I do channeling as well too. And I connect with a certain form of consciousness that is extraterrestrial in origin. And so some people have extraterrestrial questions. Some people want to know about where they have come from other planets, actually looking into different star systems and constellations, etc. Some people even want to connect with their angelic sides and want to get more information about that. Some people want to know about their oversouls. Right? So it gets very, very wide, but a lot of the common questions have been relating to self, and sometimes in regards to relationships, sometimes just being able to determine what they should do with their energy. And so really just giving them an intuitive look into them and finding out exactly where they're putting a lot of their energy and just making them aware of that, because it's always up to them to really get the realization. So you're just being a mirror. You're being a reflection for them and reflecting back, this is exactly what I'm noticing within you. Oh, okay, I haven't really seen it that strongly, so now I can direct my energies more towards this. So sometimes you're just giving them that kind of intuitive nudge, but it's really just helping them to understand more about their own personal empowerment.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because there are times when people come as a client and what is my purpose, and they expect an answer, an external answer, and really what they're asking for is to be reconnected to their own innate power. So it's interesting all the different ways that can happen, so that people can see their answers more, or own answers more clearly. It's interesting, key component. I'm quite familiar with that myself, and there's so many times clients do come and they do want to know where they've come from. And like you, I channel as well from a higher consciousness, and so the information is there, and they sort of research it out to see how it resonates with them. So what are some of the things, like I have seen so many different homes from star seeds, etc. And so what is some of the most profound information, if you can share it all, regarding the star seeds?
It's so profound. There's so much information, it's really challenging to even discover where to begin. But a lot of, without going too deep, really I've just talked to a lot of different people who are actually on the planet here for the very first time. I've also talked to people in that sense who would be quote-unquote known as walk-ins. who basically, in that sense, had another soul leave their body, and that they came into this body that was at a certain age, didn't have to go through the birth process, and have now started to inhabit that particular body and basically reteaching themselves everything that we had to learn as children while in maybe a teenage body or an adult body, etc. So there's a lot of interesting things that happens. I've had people in that sense that have actually amalgamated different extraterrestrial or parallel selves into themselves and start retuning their consciousness and actually start getting a different type of personality coming together. A lot of just different people who had memories, celestial memories, of living on other planets and actually being able to get indications about what other forms of life are out there, what other planets are out there, the different types of mentalities of different civilizations, and that they just decided at a certain point that they heard the call from Earth and that they wanted to put a hold on their current life where they were from, go into a type of stasis, and actually leave their body and have their soul travel, do a sojourn to Earth, and being able to be a part of the grand experiment that was happening here on the planet. So a lot of them have been very, very vast. There's all kinds of profound information that has come through. People who have just see themselves in like a stasis unit inside these spacecraft that are either orbiting the Earth or orbiting somewhere else, and being able to really just project their consciousness and being able to be a part of the Earth plane here, incarnated as a human being. And again, just being able to download certain levels of philosophies, of understandings, of mentalities that are assisting in spreading people's light throughout the planet. Because that's really why we're here. We're just here to really how to unify with each other, how to connect with each other in that state of love. And I apologize, guys, if I look a little too orange. It's just a really sunny day and I have orange curtains, so my face looks a little too orange. I apologize. But basically, it's just there's so much profound information. And the good thing about me is really I don't really have any memory. And when I'm doing sessions, when I'm doing intuitive channelings, when I'm doing all of these things, it's like a blank slate afterwards. I don't remember all the stuff. I have to go back to recordings and take a look at certain things. So usually when people say, Brad, what's some of the most profound things? There's tons, but I don't even think I can even remember them because everything is just so much, presence in that particular way. But it's incredible to what I can remember relating to a lot of people and where they have come from, the experiences they've gone through, connections to Atlantis, connections to Lemuria, connections to civilizations that were even before that were on this planet. It's vast. It's incredible, and there's amazing experiences that people.
And I think there's a lot of people out there that sort of lean towards what they already know. With me, I have a lot of Syrian energy.
I know, I felt that very strongly.
It's that Sirius quality. And yet there's so many different combinations of energy that it doesn't have to be pure one or another. And what people need to understand, I think, and maybe you can speak to this, is that Sirius is just something that we know. Andromeda is a place that we know. The Pleiades is a place that we know. But there are other areas that aren't really in the human awareness right now that a lot of us are from. And so that also compounds this feeling that we have of not belonging here. I mean, I've wandered around this little planet for so long, and I bumped around with different people, and, it's like I don't fit anywhere. But then I came to that realization that anywhere I am is home. And so you're comfortable in every moment, no matter where you are, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right. And it's interesting that you brought up Sirius and Andromeda because those are the two areas that I was feeling for you, right? So very good synchronicity that you brought those two up.
Well, isn't that interesting? Because I do have clients that have the same kind of energy connection there, and I always kind of giggle that those are the ones that come and sit in front of me, right? Because there's that natural gravitation. For sure. So in this grand scope of things, and with all the information that does surface for everyone else, what have you learned about yourself?
Oh, wow, so much. It's been a 180-degree transformation from where I came from before I was in this state of awakening. A lot of what happened was basically that I felt very physical, very attached to the physical realm, and just looking into money and monetary funds and attempting to get a career that I was happy with. And because I have that kind of Aries energy in me, I'm always so multitasked. You know, I want to take on many different projects. And at that time, I wasn't really disciplined in that level. I just wanted to take up so many things, and I couldn't bite enough more than I could chew, right? So a lot of with what has happened has really allowed me to grow a lot more patience, just a lot more expansion as well too, but also a lot of contraction. And contraction is just as equally important as expansion. So when I say contraction, we're basically looking at the idea of reflecting inwards, of really being able to look into ourselves, because a lot of people will say, you know, we're here to expand. In a way, that's true, but we're also here to contract, you know, because again, our lungs have to expand and contract in order for us to go through full breathing cycles. So it's very, very important that we're bringing in the contracting nature as well too. And so I've learned a lot more about contracting, about patience, about working together and holding space for people, because we don't have all the answers. A lot of us, you know, that really want to, you know, study so many different things. We want to feel that we have so many different answers that we can provide for people. And it's really only until you actually step outside of yourself and just use your vessel as a universal level of consciousness and let the universe do the speaking for you is when all the answers come. And so that's basically what I'm training myself to do, is just kind of step out of my own personality aspect when I'm kind of quote-unquote in the space, and just letting the universe share that information, whether it be through Adronis or whether that be through other aspects of the universal mind, and just letting this form of communication come through and not having any particular forms of personal barriers that may stand in the way. So I've worked to alleviate a lot of that as well too. You know, always still working on things, of course, but there's definitely been a lot of improvement from the past 7 years about becoming a lot more open, a lot more loving, being able to really recognize barriers that I've been holding on to and moving past that, and really being able to notice that as I'm evolving, people are evolving with me, and reality is changing in that way. And the realization that I'm the only one in my universe. Each and every single one of us are the only ones in our universe, and everybody else is just subconscious aspects of reflections that are helping us to show what we're all about through their perspective. So when we look at another person that's talking to us, it's us through that person looking back through their perspective back at us, right? So it's us just as if we were to have that particular type of personality, that particular type of attitude, that particular type of behavior and characteristics, and looking back at us. So everybody is just that mirror reflection. The universe is a gigantic hall of mirrors. And so we're all just looking at these different reflections of ourselves and saying, hey, I'm you, you're me, etc., etc. It's like going back to the analogy of, you know, if a kitten sees themselves in the mirror, they don't know that they're looking at themselves, right? Sometimes we'll get that impression that if we're out about in public, we don't realize we're actually just looking back at ourselves, just in different bodies, in different forms, and different personality archetypes. So everybody here is just different reflections of us through different perspectives of what creation could be understood as. And that's just experience.
Yeah, I loved what you said just there. I mean, we are just reflections of each other, right? Like, you know, you're a reflection of me right now. Ted's a reflection. And this is how we are supposed to experience physicality and purge or transmute that which is not comfortable, that doesn't align, where that's how we heal. And yet in society, we're consistently finger pointing and fist pumping, and you did that, and you shouldn't say things like that, and that person was rude to me. We've made that the impetus, right, in life. And really what we're supposed to be is soothing that and healing that and transmuting that, and most importantly, loving that, right?
Agreed. Yep, absolutely. And you know, we're always going to feel that there needs to be that kind of internal scuffle, because it's just our particular addiction to the physical plane, and just being able to see a lot of the surface. And as soon as we see somebody else, again, like the kid that's looking in the mirror that can't see itself, we can't see ourselves through that, saying, oh, this person has their own personality, their own individuality, etc., etc. How could they possibly be me? Because you attracted them, and they attracted you in that particular moment. So again, it's all just magnetics converging on one another. And that, you know, whatever it may be, for people of all walks of life, They're all just different increments of your own personality complex, of who you are in the grand scheme of things. So it's again like how we go off in the dream state and we start dreaming of other projections, people that may have been, that may be alive right now, or people that have passed away. We're still able to bring those particular projections because in the dream state we have some type of significance towards those type of people. They mean something to us. And that's basically what we're going through in many different ways when we start attracting people that we have, again, a very strong inner circle knowledge with, because they mean something to us. So our mother, our father, our brother, our sister, our husband, our wife, our best friend, etc., they all mean something to us in our own unique way. So no way will everybody have an identical experience. Everybody's going to have something very, very unique. It's kind of like looking at, the different levels of snowflakes. They're always of a different pattern, and so that's the exact same thing with us. Is the only thing that we really do have in common is that we're sharing the space right now. And we're all just learning how to get along, unify, and realize this is our planet. It's not about Americans, it's not about Canadians, it's not about the British, it's not about Indian, it's not about all of those things. It's all about human beings on one planet. And we have a multiculturalism to themselves, but that's helping us to see how our differences create similarities to how we unify. When you come together, that is the ultimate similarity.
Wow. Just wow. I just love it. I love it. I do.
It's great.
We have a ton of questions already in the chat room. Can we address a few of them, Fred?
Yeah, let me just scroll down here a bit. Oops.
Okay.
Okay. I guess Emily has asked me a question and says, can you ask Brad, are there any specific alien beings that connect with him? Yeah, there's one particular being that connects with me. As I was talking about, his name is Adronis. Basically, he represents a Sirian counterpart to myself. So basically, he would represent a multi-dimensional extraterrestrial consciousness existing within the star of Sirius. He has basically shared himself as being of starlight. And so he connects with me in a very, very natural way. His energies are just very, very amazing. There's all kinds of information when he comes through. He's like this walking dictionary, this walking encyclopedia for the cosmos, and understands a great deal of different aspects of terminology and all different types of subjects and topics. And a lot of him, a lot of what he represents has been responsible for a lot of my shifting. So I guess you could say that would be kind of like my own mentor in that way. And it's just another version of me in the aspect of Sirius. But yeah, there are many other different beings that I have connected with as well too. There are beings that are from Earth, that are from the future. So you could refer to them as time travelers in certain ways, but again, everything exists now. They're just different perspectives. So we have different types of beings from all over the planet, from past, future, etc., because again, everything is constant. I've had connections with other particular types of hybrid beings that refer to themselves as the Yahyel, which are basically a hybridization between us and the Greys in that way. And they basically fuse together civilization that basically would be their progeny. So that would be their children. Living on another particular planet. And so they are also here, and they are helping out as well too. I've connected with Pleiadian consciousness. I've connected with quite a few. There's a lot of different beings out there. A lot of different beings I can't even name. We don't even have names for them. But there's beings out there that look a lot like us, and there's beings that look nothing like us at all. And there's just a very, very vast contrasting universe that some beings are very much involved with the Earth experiment and really want to help us to usher in a new level of consciousness and unity, and there are those who don't. I've mostly have just been in contact with the ones who are very much in support. So the ones that are in support are around us. They're very much in the background, behind the scenes, doing what they're meant to do. And it's not about that type of intervention where they just want to come down here and land on the White House lawn and say, here we are, humans, we're going to save your planet. That's not what it's about at all. There is actually, in that sense, a law of non-interference. And if we have a bunch of Star Trek fans in here, we know that as the Prime Directive. And that is actually a very true law that we're going through right now. It's really just for humanity to realize what it's going through and transform in that particular way. So there's a lot of different beings, of different consciousnesses, whether it's extra-dimensionals, whether it's extraterrestrials, whether it's angelic consciousness, etc. It's all the same. We have a lot of different labels for it. We know that they're just different extensions of ourselves that are connecting in different realms, that are, again, creating some type of symmetry and cohesion with us in our current state. So there's all kinds of beings that are out there that are being communicated with, but I think the most fascinating ones are the human beings themselves.
I'm glad you spoke to the fact that they are just extensions of ourselves, because we are source energy, and that means we can be anything and come from anywhere. And it's just a matter of what we're here to learn and to evolve into that predicates what energy is going to be reflected from us, right?
Yes, exactly. You're right on the dot there. There's another question here from Tina Elliott, and she just asked, do I have a connection with Atlantis? So Tina, let me just take a moment here while I scan your energies about that. Yeah, it's kind of like I see you kind of like an athlete in Atlantis in a funny way. You know, doing a lot of running. I also kind of get the feeling that you did like a lot of farming work in Atlantis as well too. So there's definitely, you know, it kind of looks almost like a type of person that would be kind of like Mediterranean or Persian in that particular way, from what I'm getting an impression of you. But just very, very joyful. But I'm seeing a lot of activity of you, just doing like a lot of running and talking to people, a lot of farm work as well too. So that would give me an indication that, yeah, you definitely have Atlantean roots there as well too, and it just feels like a very good life, very loving life in that way. Very good. Thank you, Tina, for your question.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And John here asks, I have a new guide connecting with me at the moment. Would Brad be able to tell me about this? Okay. Let me see if I can scan your energy and see what comes through. It kind of feels like a it almost has like an old ancient religious biblical context to him. It's almost kind of feeling like he is very monk-like in that particular way as well too. There's no sense of a name, but it does feel like this has been like an ancient elder or someone who has in that sense maybe represented a type of priest or a monk who is basically guiding you right now. And it feels like a very kind of loving fatherly energy I'm sensing with him. So my particular recommendation would be kind of looking at the ancient Celtic cross. If we look at the Celtic cross that had the circle around it, really start to see that within your mind. I feel that that's really what kind of represents this particular type of energy, is if you really envision the Celtic cross in that particular way, the kind of the circular Celtic cross, and just connect with that particular energy. And I feel that that's an energy you can connect with that will help to reveal a lot more about this particular guide. But it feels like someone very fatherly-like that's behind you, kind of, again, like a monk, and a very loving, wise energy.
So, John David, if you would like to just text in what your feedback is regarding that, that would be good to know. And I think Paul is the next question.
Yeah, Paul says, here's a question for Brad. Are aliens living amongst the population now, and how does he recognize them? Yes, there are indeed. I refer to them as incognito extraterrestrials. There's quite a lot of them here. I don't always recognize them. I think it's more so on the idea that I'm being told that there is a lot of different forms of incognitos, because if we feel that we knew everybody that was, in that sense, not of this world, I think we'd be able to spot them up pretty well, and that could leave some challenges with our free will. But yeah, there certainly are some people that I've come across who I've certainly felt represent that type of alignment. But again, you never really know if they're extraterrestrial or if they're just from another time. I basically would look at it the idea that people who are starting to notice sudden shifts, sudden changes in their personality that could be very illuminating, very enlightening, are going through a very incredible experience and basically going through these shifts. It's not so much in the idea that it's about a body swap. It's more so in the idea about as you inherit different levels of consciousness, this is giving you the indication that there are certain types of energies that are now bringing themselves into you that could be extraterrestrial or elemental or angelic, etc. So a lot of these particular forms that we may notice as incognito beings or beings that are of a different world that are walking around us right now, there's a wide range of how that can happen. I was talking about earlier about walk-ins, about people in that sense who have had a body and one soul has left and another soul has come in. And so that soul has been from many different dimensions and realities and planets, etc., and is now starting to house themselves together within the body. But there have been, again, a lot of reports, a lot of documented reports about other particular beings that have come upon this planet, perhaps just for a short stay, just to fulfill a task, and then to come off and go about their business elsewhere. Adronis, the being I connect with, have said many different times that there's all different types of beings that are just coming here for short stays, and that they just kind of pop in, they do a small task. That could just be saying hello to somebody, and then gone, right? So just all kinds of different reports about people who have holographic bodies, who don't stay around too long and they pop out, or some other people in that sense who have synthesized conduits, bodies in that sense, that their particular organs are made out of a type of gelatin, and that they actually aren't operating in the type of level that we're operating with in regards to our organic bodies. So there's a lot of different understandings with that. It's not just extraterrestrials as well, too. There's a lot of people who have, in that sense, shared that they've seen fairies, that they've seen pixies, that they've seen many different elemental type beings, nature spirits, nature orbs in that way. These are, again, very, very unique, amazing, incredible, enlightening beings as well, too. So it's, again, a very, very wide variety of the type of life that's out there, and that's, again, all around us.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we had another one here from Maria. I feel a connection with Native American and Celtic. Is this so? You got to trust yourself, right? You got to trust yourself with that energy. It's not that I want to tell people, oh yeah, you're connected with this. And you know, it's great to sometimes get those type of confirmations. But what's really, really important is that when you feel these things, you know, it's all about you going very, very deeply. You're not feeling this without some type of reason, right? So if you feel connected to the idea of the Native Americans, if something about them really it just thrills you and just gets that particular type of energy, what makes you think you're even gravitating that in the first place? It's because you have some type of assignment to that. You have some type of meaning that is giving you that particular type of connection. So when we need to know that this is something that's very, very true to our heart, when we feel that we're interconnected with certain forms of civilizations. Again, one person was talking about Atlantis and saying, you know, did I have a past life in Atlantis? And yeah, I could certainly see that. But it's for her to really feel that for herself, regardless about what I feel, because as I said, I'm just a projection of you. I'm just a catalyst. So it's about looking into the idea of yourself and saying, why am I interested in the Native Americans or the Celtic? What is it about them that really just hits home to me? Because there's a familiar heart resonance there. It's vibrating at such a state that you know that this is truth. That is how you know what truth is, when it hits you in the heart. When you know that that is such a strong resonance to you, there's not a shadow of a doubt. You have such interest in them. You have such incredible love for the particular type of culture. That is your own feeling of identifying your truth. So if that's truly what you're feeling, then I would say yes, you definitely have a connection to those beings.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more with you, Brad. It is all about how people feel about it. And, you know, it's the same thing as when people come in and say, well, you know, what makes me happy? Tell me what will make me happy and I'll go do it. That's not for anyone else to figure out but you, because that sort of takes away part of the personal experience that you're to have. So, you know, it's all about getting in touch with who you are and what makes your heart sing, for sure. Now, you have been speaking about Adronis, and this is a topic that I get really excited about. And can you tell us about Adronis and where, if there's, I know it's with me, I have a higher consciousness collective, so I'm not sure if Adronis is like a collective like Abraham is to Esther Hicks. Mm-hmm. But if you can shed some light on who Adronis is, and I know that he is with you, or that energy flows through you and provides you with all sorts of information. Can you share a little bit of what that information has been telling you, specifically about the times we're in right now?
All right. Would you like me just to bring Adronis in and he can tell you himself?
If you can do that, Brad, that would be awesome. Thank you.
That would probably be the best way, rather than me speaking for him, than just have him come through and share this information. So I'll just take a moment just to attune the vibrations. Again, I'm what's known as a conscious channeler, so it just takes me a moment or two just to center myself and get into his alignment. And Adronis can explain the alignment and, again, what he represents, and, again, any questions you guys have. So I'll just be a moment now while I attune the energies and bring Adronis through.
Yeah, you might want to be on camera for this.
Okay. We are here at this time, and we bid you greetings, and thank you very much for the opportunity of this interaction today. I am Adronis of Sirius, sending love, appreciation, and gratitude to all who are tuning in to this particular broadcast being brought forward through your Internet collective consciousness. What we would like all of you to do at this time is simply allow yourselves to get relaxed, get comfortable, and tune in to the vibrations of Sirius, so that you may synchronize, harmonize, and align to all of the information that we have to share. Also understand that all of the information that we shall provide today is simply that of our perspective, our point of view. For all knowledge, all information, all creation itself resides within your very heart, being, and soul. And so we thank very much the hosts of this particular form of program that has allowed us to come through this conduit in this particular way. The question has relayed to us, relating to the idea of where we come from, who we are, what is our relationship to the conduit, and what is our relationship with all of you. We would represent the idea of what you would understand in your own way of a multi-dimensional consciousness, that we in that sense exist as a monadic form of degree. Basically what this represents is what you are experiencing right now is a liaison medium. The idea of, in that sense, associating a blending of personality between this entity, known as Brad, and ourselves, relating the idea of flow of consciousness that has connected in this particular degree. That our relationship to the idea of energies is simply that of what you would know as spirit light, and that we exist as spheres of consciousness through the idea of how we associate perspective with the universe. That we have come to you in this particular timing to allow yourselves to realize exactly who you are altogether from a celestial, from an extra-dimensional perspective. And through this particular medium of understanding in your own way, you are realizing all of the capabilities that you have, which you have not been told commonly through your society. And so we are here to be, shall we say, the evolution agency, or agents of evolutionary change. And so in doing so, we communicate through this conduit, through his own willingness to share our particular perspectives with many of you. And that we are associating ourselves simply for the purpose of knowing that you are family to us, and we are family to you. And so it is in that sense a family member communicating with other family members. To realize that, again, we are, yes, one infinite universe, and that we are, in that sense, maybe, through the idea of your own perception, in different stars, together on different planets, in different realities and different dimensions, yet together here we are one. Yet together here we are intimate in the idea of relationship, of how we communicate with you and interact with you in this particular type of way. And that your planet in that sense is going through an immense shift, one of the most immense shifts that it has ever gone through. That you are moving up the dimensional ladder, that you are shifting from one particular dimension to another particular dimension that will be in that sense fully fused within your years to come, to which you will be operating to where, shall we say, your body will be operating on a much more lighter state of being. Very similar to what you would understand as your own dream plane environment. Now, this is a ways away in that sense, but you are now starting to feel the transitional effects of the idea of actually existing within the dream plane right here and right now. So the whole idea is that you still have, shall we say, third density concepts pertaining to what you would understand as your mental behaviors, as your emotional behaviors, as your physical behaviors, etc. Yes, that is still present, but you are also noticing how you would understand the feeling that time is accelerating. That you are so caught up in the moment that you feel that the day has just gone by. And so this is giving you the idea that you are becoming much more in the affair of event rather than in the affair of illusionary time. And so we are simply helping you in our own particular way for you to realize who you are and for you to realize what is happening on your planet. That many have asked that, yes, Adronis, it seems that we're going through a great deal of dark times, that we're going through a great deal of chaos that's occurring upon the planet. And yes, you are. And that's in that sense a very, very appropriate way for you to learn about yourselves. Because if you were simply upon a planet of light, you would not be experiencing the type of experience that you're experiencing in that particular way. So you are moving through this particular shift that relates to the idea of dualistic consciousness so that you can choose more about what you prefer. In order for you to be purified into the light, you must first go through the filters of your own darkness to help you understand more about what you don't want, which helps you to accumulate the purity of who you are naturally. So again, we are simply ambassadors to helping you expand together in this particular way, for it is what we are doing out of love in association with this conduit's interests in communicating with us mutually in this particular way. So we thank you very much for the opportunity of this interaction. Do you have any questions for us at this time?
Well, thank you, Adronis. It's wonderful to be able to communicate with you today through Brad. I think one of the first questions I have is, yes, I believe we are all family, and it also speaks to whether you have been through this process before. Is this a cycle on Earth that is repetitive, and were you around as ambassadors to help with each cycle that went through this dark evolutionary time?
The understanding is that many of your cycles, in what you would refer to as your past, have had, shall we say, similar forms to this degree in regards to times of great change. But in regards to the intensity and the populace that is currently upon your planet as it exists right now, there has never been a cycle like this before, ever in recorded history of the universe. And so basically you are all making universal history by shifting in this particular way. And the reason why we say that is because human beings themselves actually have, in that sense, the most prolific state of contrast associated with them more than any other being that exists within the universe. So we are basically what we would refer to as gods in training. And why we say that is because you have the capability to, shall we say, become anything that you wish, as long as you consider it to be valid. And so being able to have this immense shift from an incredible species that you are indeed, this is indeed the very first time that a shift this profound, a shift this intense, has ever happened in the history of your world and in others.
All right, thank you for that. Now, with this shift, and it is a pivotal one, I really feel that. I feel that truth when you speak it. Will there be subsequent opportunities via these cycles to come up for people who are still in the throes of their awakening and have not yet mastered the illumination that they require in order to move through this period of time?
It is important to understand that the voices of awakening are always with you. It is simply the idea for you to understand that once you listen to the voices, realizations will visit you. And so it is when you have those realizations that your ears have created the adjustment to listening to yourself. So everybody upon this planet has had those particular awakening voices. Whether they choose to listen to it or not is up to them. It is the realization of what you are able to listen to determine exactly your alignment on this planet. There will be those in that sense who are going through extensive states of grand awakening and starting to understand exactly how they are associated in kind with the experiment that you know as Earth, that represents how they connect together with the reality body that truly is themselves. And there will be those in that sense who have, have not really got the memo just yet. But that's all right. The whole idea is that you are spirit, is that you are soul, is that you are mind, and you will always be infinite, and that you will always be eternal. There is no end to you. There may be the idea of the retirement of the physical body at certain times, at a certain point within your life, but that does not mean it is the end of you by far. What is always an understanding here is that everything potentially is becoming stripped off for you to understand the gaining of what you know yourself to be. There never really is loss, because nothing in the universe is ever lost. That requires separation. And because there is no separation, you are always together. And you are, again, peeling off these particular layers. You are shedding off these different layers of skin to helping you understand exactly who you are by, again, experiencing what you're not. So, again, many of you are going through tremendous shifts right now. Many of you are, again, realizing the potential of yourselves. And there are many who are not as well. And again, that is all right. So it is basically, in that sense, a mixed bag pertaining to those who are looking to passionately transform themselves through the forms of fundamental shifts that are helping them to direct their lives to becoming more of who they feel they naturally are.
All right. Thank you very much, Adronis. That certainly explains things a little better. Now, when it comes to the planet and society as a whole that you view through your eyes, from your vantage point, there seems to be a society that is recycling in its own fear as to what will happen. And you know, we have the economy that that may collapse, and I know you just said that nothing really gets stripped away, but paradigms should fall before newer paradigms that are more in alignment with with our energy can be built. So questions in the chat room have ranged from what will happen in the future as far as where our energy is going as a collective, and do you think that there will be disclosure of the ETs this year? Now, I know we're running out of so-called time this year. It's September already, but that is the question.
Yes. Well, again, firstly, understand that in relation to your economy in that sense, many may feel that this is a particular state of loss. But we will look into the idea as a certain mantra. There is no loss. There is only substitution. And basically what is happening in regards to the decline pertaining to your current monetary system is that you realize that the integrity of the current monetary system is insufficient. And realizing that on a collective consciousness level, you are all giving yourselves permission to say that this particular monetary system, as it simply represents the idea of fiat nature, as it represents the idea of tremendous debt, is not in association with what you consider to be valid on a collective consciousness level anymore. And so, as you have collectively made up your minds about that, you will notice that this particular type of economy that you are in right now will continue to decline. However, once something declines, something else rises. And so basically you are always looking at a scale that is adjusting itself accordingly. There is never the idea of loss exponentially that cannot recover upon its own self through a state of balance. And so the idea is that there is going to be the idea of newly applied monetary gain upon your planet that is currently in the stages of happening. There is no exact date about when this particular form of monetary system on a newly aligned form is actually going to take place. It certainly will be heating up within the next 2 years. So again, basically upon your planet you are moving into these different forms of monetary structures, and within the next 5 years it is very likely that you will start to develop the peak of this new form of, shall we say, monetary adjustment that is coming upon your planet. Now, money in that sense is still something that you are working together as it relates to the value of your own exchange, of how you see your own particular type of worth. So the idea as it pertains to the economy, to your stock markets in that sense, as they are currently calibrated, will continue to plummet, simply because that is what you have chosen as a collective consciousness. And again, that is not, shall we say, in a time to panic, because as something starts to plummet, something else begins to rise. So we would ask you to look more into the idea about what is rising as something plummets, because if only you're looking at something that is plummeting, that is losing cohesion throughout your collective consciousness, you're not allowing yourself to turn your head to see exactly what's rising. And this is more so in the idea of what you would know as grassroots-based systems. And again, more of the idea of countries actually having their own forms of currencies that are actually going to start generating themselves in regards to equal mutual exchange. That is basically what you're going, and you will discover that many of this future currency in that sense will be very much more digital in that particular way. So that is basically where you are going within the next span of, shall we say, approximately 5 years. In regards to the idea of, shall we say, where you feel your culture is going as it relates to extraterrestrial disclosure. Well, the whole idea is that many different levels of disclosure are starting to happen now. It's just that, again, many people are not turning their heads to realize that disclosure is actually happening right now. But again, understand that you are going through a phase, very similar to how an infant must first learn to crawl, and then must learn to stand up, and then must learn to walk. This is basically what you are going through by taking the baby steps towards the idea of realization that other particular civilizations exist. And so this relates to the idea of what you would refer to as your own NASA just recently announcing the existence of an Earth-like planet, very much similar to yours, that has water, that has oxygen in a particular way, and in that sense may actually sustain life, which it does. So again, that is one particular type of, shall we say, minuscule level of disclosure right there. There are also other particular forms of grassroots factors that are giving you information as it pertains to, shall we say, other governmental associations of interstellar agencies that actually exist as well. There are also other particular forms, again, of witness accounts pertaining to that of extraterrestrial disclosure, through which you would know as declassified documentation. So a lot of this does represent the idea of the baby steps of disclosure. There is a lot more happening as well, too. But in regards to the idea of a global first contact, of actually you having yourselves aware to the idea of, shall we say, the beginning of civilizations in that state of awareness throughout your entire populace, that will take a little bit more time. However, we do estimate that between the years of 2018 and 2023 that you will have a much more grander understanding that other extraterrestrial sentient civilizations do exist. Whether they decide to present themselves to you is not fully clear. But between those 5 years, you will notice that around that time, there will be much more peak introduction to the idea of actual extraterrestrial sentient civilizations that will start to become more well known within your culture collectively.
All right, thank you so much for that. And I certainly see where what you're saying is truthful, because there have been items that have been disclosed already, and it is a process. It's not just one big grand theatrical announcement, so to speak. So the other question we have here, Adronis, is, are there any words or phrases or some sort of light language that can be said that will assist to heal the tensions of this shift, to bring about more peace and etc.?
Understand that everything truly is relative in regards to the idea of shifts that are happening, or certain forms of stagnancies that are looking to be made into shifts. So again, depending upon the particular area in question, that can have certain forms of specifics. Now again, light language in that sense can be very extensive, but again, it's only effective in regards to relationships of what others in that sense are able to digest and understand in their own appropriate levels of adjustment, and where they range pertaining to the idea of their own growth. So yes, there can be certain forms of mantras. There can be certain levels of mudras that you can personally create. There are certain levels of meditations that you can guide in that particular way. There are certain prayers relating to the idea of light language that can be, shall we say, effective for some in the groups. But because you are all unique individuals, the idea of that variance pertaining to the form of light language or any other formality that represents the idea of subconscious shifts varies based upon the individual or the group in question.
Yes, and you know, it makes sense to me that it has to be correlated to our own vibration, and that's the only time it's going to actually work.
Yes.
So Ted, I would like to bring Ted in. Ted, do you have a question or two for Adronis?
Oh, I have a question or two indeed. Yes, thank you. Welcome, Adronis.
Hello, Ted.
And, hi. Words of wisdom indeed. As you'll probably know, because from your vantage point, I'm very much a jury out until I see or hear or feel that I resonate with energies or belief systems or whatever. A couple of questions, if I may. On a very human level, this question is coming from. Where are you in the scheme of the universe? Do you have a corporal body? Are you sighted on Sirius? It makes sense to me as a human where you are in the scheme of things.
You do not exist within your corporeal dimension. The idea is that how we exist is that of what you would know as starlight. Now, through the idea, your perspective, by looking at the idea of the star of Sirius in regards to its starlight altogether, would be the closest approximation of actually being able to understand a vantage point that would be somewhat appropriate in regards to physical representation. But because we exist in this particular form, it is very important to understand that everything pertaining to that which is not ephemeral, pertaining to the idea of reality, quasi-reality in that sense, astral states, in that sense, is very much at our disposal to utilize certain forms of imagery and certain forms of projections of bodies that can, in that sense, manifest within these quasi-dimensional realms, or even, in that sense, the physical realm. But the whole idea is that we do not, in that sense, corporeally construct a body consciously to actually be upon this planet simply because of its density. The idea in regards to the closest level of relationship to us physically would be through the idea of this conduit, as Brad himself represents an aspect to our own soul origin in that particular way. So that would basically represent the closest approximation to physical energy, and in that sense, physical understanding to how we exist. But we have been known to, in that sense, visit certain people during their dream states at night to convey messages. We have also, in that sense, appeared in other particular people's forms of bedrooms in that way, and other forms within their environmental of homes, simply based upon the idea of mutual exchanged vibrational contact. that have appeared as light, that have appeared as orbs, that have appeared again as mental projections. So again, we do have different ways of appearing, but only in regards to the certainty of vibration that is appropriate through the idea of this co-creation to allow certain forms of interactions of this nature to take place. So again, understand that where we are, it is in that sense looking at something ephemerally, and understanding that this is something that may be, shall we say, difficult to swallow in some ways. But the whole idea is that we're not really concerned about proving that we exist to you, because it's not that important. What truly is important is the message that is being shared here through the words of this conduit, and determining if you vibrate to it or not. And if you don't vibrate to it, that's fine. Realizing that you have your own particular personal resonances and your own means of what you feel is appropriate for yourselves. And so we are not here to babysit any of you. We are not here for you to say that our word is the gospel. It is simply the idea that we are sharing this information in the way as a messenger would to the message. And if the message works for you, then that is wonderful. If not, that is wonderful as well. And so all we are doing in that sense is using the idea of a loose context of our communication through this conduit to allow this information to be shared and for you to do what you will with it.
Thank you. Thank you. That makes a lot of sense to me, and I can respectfully say that pretty much everything that's been said over the last 20 minutes, to my mind as a human, are very wise and very spot on from my personal perspective. The human curiosity within me, and probably in many others out in this big, wide, wonderful, good, bad world of ours, is to wish to bring a truth to what they perceive out there, whether it be in the real world or in the world that we inhabit as humans and the ones from which you come. And so whilst I'm not asking you to prove that you exist, because you clearly do, in whatever state that is, energetically or ephemerally, it's simply that humans would connect directly and understand, would they not, when they suspect they know where you are based and where you come from. But you've answered the question, and I thank you for that. Could I ask you another favour, in a sense? There's a number of questions that have been asked in the chat room that we're using as a facilitator tonight. On a personal level, would you be prepared to just read me as you read me, not essentially knowing me, but due to the position you're in, you presumably are able to give a call on myself, and I would just be interested to know what you see.
Approximation is that we would see you as an association to a great deal of internship of ancient elders that have, in that sense, assisted in the idea of producing knowledge and news to many different forms of, shall we say, community members throughout the years. There have been individuals in that sense that you have been a part of that relate to the idea of couriers, that relate to the idea of scribes, that relate to the idea of faithful servants, to the idea of what you would know as religious fundamentals or even indigenous fundamentals as well. And so much pertaining to your energy has been that of a healer, has been that of a scribe, has been that of a teacher, has been that, again, of a sharer, a messenger, an exchanger of information in regards to the providing of what you know for the will to do good. And so in that particular way, through many of the family relationships that you have, in that sense, had a mixed bag as it pertains to family relationships in times past that have represented those who are very much in support to what you do and to those who have not. And in that sense, much to your own will, is simply to see others awaken as you have, and seeing them begin to expand in certain ways that, in that sense, as you see them grow, there is a joy, there is a happiness that grows deeply within your own heart, deeply within your own soul, that feels, this is exactly what I want to see, is being able to see the happiness that comes through others that residually creates that happiness within yourself. You have the intention and the passion to serve.
Well, that's something up there.
Right. Rewind, Mr. Reverend Ted Woodruff, because I will hold my hands up to this, and I will hold up to the higher being that Adronis is, that my jury, and he knows, he, she, whichever it is, there may be no sexual gender in your world. I hear you, I appreciate what you say, and as you spoke, I fully physically resonated with absolutely every word you said, and now I believe. And thank you, because I hold my hands up. I'm human, I am me, and I don't believe until I believe. Now I believe. So thank you, because you are so spot on, and that was the answers that I wished for, and they are absolutely me. And I'm grateful for that, and thank you so much.
We send you our love, our support, and our appreciation as well for your interaction together.
Adronis, I'm wondering if you may briefly do the same for me. I've undergone a shift. I just want to make sure that, I mean, I know who I am, I know where I'm going, but this shift has been a huge one for me. And if you could just speak to that, I would appreciate it.
Well, let us tune a few energetic dials. Click, click, click. How do you feel now?
I feel great.
More spot on and aligned? Just joking with you.
I know.
The whole idea, really, is that, again, with your particular energy, what has stood out most about you is the idea of your motherly energy. And that the idea is everybody who you come in association with is greeted in the warmth just as the same as a mother would her own child. And so you have, shall we say, a rainbow-rich essence pertaining to the heart space that you wish to shower upon the planet. And through the idea of wondering, am I doing enough? Is this enough? Or should I be doing more? In that sense is not important. What truly is the key is that you are tuning into that rainbow-rich heart essence that you basically have naturally within yourself, to realize that as long as I bring that into my awareness, I am doing my work. That as long as I continue to be loving to others and realize that I am here to listen to them, that I am here to share my truth that can be compatible and in resonance together with their own, then I am doing my motherly work together upon this planet. It is of no consequence that the idea of your own energy is that of Mother Earth herself, and that she herself is a radiant goddess, as are you. And so therefore you are reciprocating what you have already connected to the higher aspects pertaining to Mother Earth herself. And you have done this lifetimes after lifetimes, whether it be through the idea of speaking through a church, or speaking through the idea of ceremony, or speaking through the idea of ritual, and speaking through that of priestess energy, that of royalty energy of the stars, and connecting together in regards to ancient knowledge that is now starting to circumference your particular radio field, and now starting to enrich yourself again with this soulful, rainbow-rich heart essence that you truly are, that you are experiencing right now. And we are saying that what you are doing through love truly is all that you need to, and that is the grandest state of effortlessness to love. We thank you.
Thank you so much. And yeah, I knew it was a very big shift, and I love the ancient wisdom that is coming through me once again, reminding me of who I am and what I've already accomplished and what I have left to do. So that's amazing. Thank you so much. I was just go ahead.
Well, I'm just going to say, while Brad's Adronis is exiting from that extraordinary channeling, I will repeat what I sort of suggested a moment ago, that I'm very much personally down to earth, that I believe in my truth, obviously, and I need to see, hear, or feel that which fully resonates with me. And so I sometimes sit back with my jury very much out, sometimes for quite a long time, until I hear that which absolutely convinces me. To be fair, I would think most people would and should actually be that way, but I feel on a show like Virtual Vision, I need to be courteous throughout, as I am with all guests. Now, as I say, and I'm kind of like gobsmacked, because Adronis was so spot on with me in particular. It wasn't as though it was in any way a repeat of anyone before. It was so specific and personal to me, and to an answer to myself, plus the energetic that I got for the first time this evening.
Yeah.
That's special stuff. That is amazing. And that's just the observation I'm making. I'm not an apologist for myself. It's just, as the co-host here, I will bring in a balance every so often, and I have thrown curveballs in the past. But I have to say, up until that point, my jury was kind of out, but I listen respectfully. I hear what's being said, and then suddenly you get the whacking curveball around the back of your own head, and it's awesome. And it is absolutely, truly awesome when that happens.
This is why we are happy to hear that you are such a wonderful, energetic baseball player.
It wasn't. I mean, in fairness, I know he's being ironic there. It wasn't that I wanted to hear how. Not that it was wonderful. No, it went far more to the core of that, the core of what I do and what I am, which resonated. But yeah, sure, we all like to hear good of ourselves, but not necessarily in an ego sense.
We want to thank each and every single one of you, again, for the interactions provided through this particular form of presentation with all of you today. We must conclude at this time, and we will now return to the conduit. I am Adronis of Sirius. Thank you again. Farewell for this timing, and we will wish you love, light, harmony, and support throughout all of your personal journeys together. Remember, one is all is one. Now is forever, forever is now. Goodbye.
Fine.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right,
Wow.
good. Thank you.
That was totally amazing.
And that's basically a general session with what I do with a lot of people. So again, whether it's individual sessions or group sessions, to me, I'm just sitting back and I'm enjoying everything equally that Adronis is saying, because as this information is coming through, it's my voice that's carrying it, but it's not even that sense. The personality that I understand is me saying it. So again, a lot of this is just coming through, again, the universal flow, where you're just stepping aside and you're letting Adronis, the universe, come through and connect and share what it needs to share based upon the vibratory significance of each energy that you come across.
And that's what I want to point out to people is when someone is truly channeling, there's no stumbling of words. Truly, you're moved right aside, and that flow. And you know, when you're doing that as a medium or doing that as a psychic, it's all about the vibration of what you're receiving and then matching the words to it so quickly in a nanosecond. And sometimes we can trip up. But when there's channeled information, there's none of that. So that is a way that you can tell someone who is truly purely channeling and one that is almost there or halfway there.
And that's a funny thing as well, too. When I first started to channel Adronis, people noticed that in different forms of changes because they said, oh, Brad, when Adronis comes through, he's so clear and crisp, and he paces himself very well. When I was first starting, I was very much fumbling over my own words. I was talking very, very quickly. And I basically got the synchronicity of just basically doing what's known as conversational meditation. So from where I am right now back to where I was, definitely have improved on that. But I've noticed that as well too. Wow, when I go in the channeling state, it's like all crisp and clear, right? And so basically that's a good sign as well too. When I start to see other channelers do that, I said, yeah, there's some really good information coming through, because you just know that it's kind of like how an actor becomes the part. You know that the actor becomes this particular type of personality, and that's basically what happens. So it's kind of like a blending of soup between my own personality and Adronis' own personality. So he does have a particular type of personality in that way that blends together with me, and we connect in this particular way. But he very much in that sense is without emotion, but very rich in the idea of feeling.
Exactly, and you know, it's really all predicated on that vibrational alignment between Adronis and yourself. It works easily, and it flows even more easily. I know that when I channel, a lot of my channeling is written, but when I am in front of an audience and I channel the council, it's so funny because Adronis is saying, well, you're this little motherly creature and, you know, so warm and gentle and kind and nurturing, and yet when I bring the council through, I get this really assertive kind of stance with me, and everything shifts and changes. And
well, that'll be an indication that I think you and I will probably have to do a dual channeling session in the future, like an event with you and me together. I think that would be a very cool thing.
I am up for that.
Great. We'll talk about it.
let's do that. We do have some more questions in the chat room. She says motherly.
Sandra. Sandra's inquiring about her path, wondering about her path.
Okay. Sandra, if you want to give a little bit more specifics on that, just because path is very, very vast, right? So if there's a certain area that maybe you wanted to discuss, that you want to talk on, just feel free to put that in the chat, and I can help you out with that further.
And the same with Steph then. I would suspect you're asking, do you like to be read also? Perhaps give a little more info, Steph. Just for a moment while they're doing that, repeat what I said. I don't know whether, I mean, I get the impression, Brad, that while you're channeling essentially Dronis, you are still there and hearing what is being said.
Yeah.
But I will repeat sort of for the benefit of everyone, and maybe my own conscience in a sense and consciousness, that throughout the show I listen to the guest very carefully and courteously and whatever, and I take my time personally to be convinced about what any guest is necessarily putting forward. And I've watched a lot of trance workers in my life, and some extraordinary trance workers, and you're up there with them. There's the Elaine Thorpes of this world, and there's the John Davids, who are, you know, I've directly been, you know, sat physically in front of them. When you Adronis stepped in, yeah, a definite change, although, as you say so rightly, he blends with you, that he is you and you are he, in a sense like that. And it was that purity of continuation of speech that carries on, that starts to lend credence to what is happening in front. Because, to be fair, if somebody strolled in on this from the street and saw what was happening, there could be a jury out or two, to be fair. You know, I recognise that when I do psychic surgery, there might be some people just thinking I'm throwing my hands around over a body and it's all a load of old codswallop sort of thing. But then again, you know, I'm a deep believer in the angelic realms and other forms of existence and whatever. It was truly when I asked Adronis to address me as the individual, that it wasn't like anything you'd said prior to anyone else, so there was no crossover there. And it went absolutely to the core of me and what I do, and certain specifics about the happiness that I get from seeing others learning and others developing. So, yeah, you know, if you didn't have a convert at the beginning, you've certainly got a convert now. And based on, predicated, as Ari uses a wonderful word, predicated on what you said before. It didn't mean that I didn't believe it, but as I say, my jury stays out until I'm personally convinced, and I think most people should be like that, because then you truly can believe once you are convinced of the validity of what anyone's saying, whether they're new to it, or they're a stranger to you.
Yeah, and what I'll say to that as well too is that it feels great when a person is in that particular type of alignment with this information, and it's also okay if people aren't. And to me, that's something I've had to work past as well too, and saying, you know, I've had people come up to me and say, Brad, I don't know, what if I know you're putting on a show or something like that? I said, that's fine, you know, that's okay. Then if I'm putting on the show, then I'm glad I entertained you in a certain way, right? Because all you're basically doing is just continuing to offer compliment to people and being able to understand that it's okay if you feel that this isn't for you at this time. Maybe you come back a year or so, maybe it clicks, who knows. But again, it's okay if that particularly happens. I'm not here to basically win anybody's favor. I'm just here basically because I've done this and I've met a lot of people who love this and I love this, and I'm only doing this because this is who I am, and that's really the only reason. So whether people are very much in resonance to it, and I really give a lot of appreciation to those people, or people who are not in resonance with it, that's okay too. I'm just not here to curry favor. I'm just happy to do exactly what I'm here to do, and that's what's important to me. What matters is that this is my truth, and I can never prove my truth to anybody. But as long as I know that's genuine to me, that's what matters.
And that is so true. It's not a crusade. It's not a crusade. You know, people will hear this and will either take to it right away or get a glimmer that causes them to seek a little bit more so that they can understand a little bit more. And then there's other people that just are not in alignment with it, and they won't even know about this program or the guest or Brad's work. And everything is okay. It's all good, and everything in its own time, which is that law of rhythm, right?
Yep.
So, okay.
Sandra Sandra's developed it, saying, I observe, I help, I feel, I heal with words. Will this further itself?
Okay.
Is that enough to work on?
Okay, yeah, so I observe, I help, I feel, I heal with words. Will this further itself? Yeah, Sandra, I think that's basically what it is. I feel that there's something else that's ready to come your way. basically being able to do this in a way of a method in that particular way, something that you feel is almost like a particular personal ritual to yourself that you're doing kind of in a regime or a routine. And I feel that this is basically everything that you feel you are healing with words, and that you're feeling this and that you're assisting in that particular way is ready to come through some type of conduit, is coming through some type of systematic approach. And so whether that be through something like body talk or through something that you feel is very much in association with what you're doing naturally, is going to come together to create some type of routine that is kind of like a wheel on a car. You know, you're basically getting this wheel to support yourself and go places. And again, it represents a structure. So I feel that there's some type of structure that may be adaptive to you, regardless and perhaps to a type of healing regimen, or something in regards to some type of intuitive system that's coming your way that you may stumble upon, that will really, in that sense, take all those healing words and bring them into another level. So it's good that we, again, have those healing words. It's when we actually start to really take action and really go into a deeper level of expression in enacting on those particular words that are going to make all the difference. So I feel that there is some type of system, something that you're going to be guided to, that will really help to organize that and bring you into that next level of kind of spinning that wheel. Okay, so that's what I received from that.
Thank you. Sandra, maybe you could give us feedback on that from Brad. Maria Anastasia is asking another one, Brad. I would like to know my path, or at least be steered towards it. I have a recurring dream of being lost and not being able to find my way back. As for my path, I feel my daily life as though I'm going around in circles. I kind of need some specific directional purpose.
Yeah, I do dream interpretations as well too. And usually when you feel lost, you're basically relying too much on the external world, and basically feeling that, well, this person's doing this, maybe I should do that. Oh, that doesn't fit. Or basically, in that sense, seeking so much counsel from other people, or seeing certain things that have worked for them and realizing, well, it's not working for you, because again, it just doesn't fit in regards to that two-way identical streak. So I feel really what this represents right now, firstly, I feel it's time to take a break. It's time to kind of put yourself on hold for a little bit and really start to pamper yourself and really just start to form a self-relationship with yourself. Maybe I'll go out to the beach. Maybe I'll go for a walk in the park. Maybe I'll hang out with some really good friends that make me feel so good. But it's basically, in that sense, kind of taking a breather. And as you really start to rejuvenate and recharge your battery in that particular way, you'll notice that there'll be a lot more things coming together. I feel that you yourself are kind of on a healing path in your own particular way. But I feel writing or music is also very strong with you as well. So that may be something you might want to look into, but I think really for you to get a full scope is just giving yourself, putting that pause button on reality and giving yourself time for you, and really just exploring your fascinations about how you really want to help heal yourself and how you feel you can heal the world. And again, I feel that comes very strongly through the idea of writing. May even be like the idea of creativity as well too, like creative writing, music as well too, and I think also the idea of imagery really inspires you as well. So maybe look into that while you're taking your pause break and really just getting into that appreciative self-relationship.
Thank you. Feedback from Sandra is thank you. I need structure. I've been in solitude for too long. So
I got that.
What was said. Oh, cool.
So,
Okay.
Just something that you know is a very good compliment to you, Sandra. So anything that you feel is really good. Maybe that's Reiki. Maybe that's something that involves singing as well too. Again, a great form of concept for healing words. That may also be binaural beats. Doing meditations as well too. Anything that you feel is a good structure that is in complement to you.
And the last one that I can see, unless Eris can see any others, is Carrie. If I may ask more than one question, says Carrie, my grandfather died 3 weeks before my birthday. Can Brad give me a specific date of that day? I think it would be helpful to me. I would like to honor him on that day. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's probably the hardest thing for me to do, actually, is actually do birth dates, because I do access the Akashic records. But basically what happens is when I'm in the Akasha, there really is no idea of a time stamp or a date stamp in regards to things. It's basically that I can see events. One of the challenging things, though, is actually to get like a name very specifically, or even to get a date. But I think really what can really help you is someone who may be really good at dowsing. That may be able to assist you in becoming more precise in that particular way. I'm starting to work on dowsing a little bit, but still need a lot more practice. So dates aren't really one of the best things I can do, but as far as the events and getting feeling for those particular type of events, that would be more my forte.
Yeah, and I think, too, people need to understand, perhaps, that when we are working and we're extracting that information, where we're getting it from, there is no time. And so
Exactly.
everything is very, very fluid. And so coming up with an exact date is formidable,
Yeah,
really.
yeah. I would say out of all psychics that can try to pull dates, I'd say you probably find maybe less than 5% of all psychics in the world that can actually pull dates. They just basically have a way to search through an event, to basically seeing a newspaper on the ground, to picking up something in that way, or maybe to have a guide that works together with them to seek out the idea of a date if that's very, very important for a person. But I think it's less than 5% who can actually do that, so it's quite rare.
Yeah, I think the dowsing or the muscle testing,
Yeah.
would be useful.
That could help in certain ways, yeah.
Yeah.
And if it's meant
Steph
for you
is
to be, if it's meant for you to be found, it'll be found.
Yes, definitely. Okay,
Yeah,
there's just
Steph.
one more
Yes.
question here.
Yeah, Steph asked, if there is time, I would be interested in hearing any messages or advice that he may have for me in regards to proceeding forward on my journey. Steph, I'm just getting the idea of you galloping horses, like actually on a horse and galloping. And it may not really represent the idea of you wanting to ride a horse, but it's giving you the idea to express yourself and feel as free as the wind, right? So it's giving you the idea to really kind of connect more so with what you enjoy. So if we're looking at the idea of the thrill of horseback riding, it's kind of like really going into more of the thrills of life, of really enjoying yourself and being able to encourage yourself with what you feel to you represents your freedom of expression. I feel that there's just been this kind of gate, that's kind of just been squishing you a little bit, and there's these walls that have been squishing you a little bit, and you're ready now to step outside that gate and see this big open field, hop on that proverbial horse and start riding, right? So it's basically being able to be more encouraging in your appreciation for freedom and realize that your freedom is going to bring you all kinds of innovations and stuff like that. It's not so much, again, looking for the external, looking for something outside of yourself, because that's really on many times going to create confusion. Unless you know what the symbol is attempting to tell you, that may guide you to something on an internal level. But really just being able to take a break from all the external noise, so to speak, hop on that horse and start going into your freedom of expression. And the more that you do that, you'll notice how these things of your enjoyment is going to encourage you to go into different areas and looking into being able to develop new friendships, new relationships as well too, which I feel is coming your way. I'm also getting the feeling of traveling for you as well too, that will be coming very soon. So that could also be representative of the horse, of doing that kind of horseback riding, traveling and seeing new places.
You know what, and Steph, please post your feedback in the chat room so that we can pass it along to Brad. That would be interesting to hear. But Brad, it's phenomenal. It's amazing to me, and it always is very fascinating. We interacted briefly on another Google Hangout about a month ago, and I knew then that whoa, right? And even now, just when you respond to these questions, the resonation that I get as you're speaking it is huge. And so it's interesting that I would be getting the same kind of information, maybe in a different way, and maybe using different words, but yeah, totally.
Well, that's good. That's just showing there's equal symmetry. It's kind of like looking at a left and right hemisphere in the mind that just come together, right? So you're basically seeing that unfold. And I've gotten that quite a bit, and actually in past interviews as well too, and other ones I've done. People have, like I've been on site with psychics as well too, and they basically say, I got the same message, just like a little bit of a different vision, but it was all the same message in that way. I said, absolutely, because that's how we portray the idea of the message that we're trying to convey, even though it's different in appearance, but it's basically the same as resolved. So it's a wonderful thing to see.
It is. Energy is so fascinating to me, and how it all connects together and unfolds for specific people is truly amazing. I wish everyone could experience it the way that I am right in the moment. I can't thank you for your time today enough. I mean, it was absolutely brilliant. I didn't expect Adronis to show up, but I'm so glad that occurred. And you really shed some light and some wisdom on what is happening on this planet right now and what we can all do about it to soften it and love the entire planet through this evolutionary period that we're in.
Excellent.
I hope that you will come back and revisit us at some point in the future. That would be great.
yeah, like I said, please feel free to contact me, and we can definitely work out like a channeling event as well. So I think that'd be great. Like I said, I'm going to LA here next weekend to do a big channeling event there. It's called the Channel Panel. There's myself and 7 other channels from all over the world that are coming in, and being able to offer this, again, great service through the beings that they connect with as well. It is called the Channel Panel, and the information is on my website as well, realitywhisperer.com. But I'd be happy to come back again in the future and talk some more.
Yes, I'd love to. I'd love to hear all about that panel and how that unfolds. That will be wild.
It'll be fun.
Yeah, have fun. So yeah, I'll be in touch with you. Not a problem about the other, and I'm looking forward to that. Ted.
Great. Yeah, for everybody else, again, there are sessions that I do online as well too. If you guys want to have a one-on-one session with Adronis, myself, etc., you can go ahead and visit my website. There's a lot of great stuff on there. So again, it's realitywhisperer.com.
Yes, please. I encourage everyone to do that. There is a ton of information on Brad's website, and there's all sorts of things that he does offer, and one might be in alignment with what you are wanting to know about. So please take the time. Ted?
Yes, a shout out to the chat room, and thank you everyone for your questions. I hope Brad answered them all. He appeared to very sort of successfully. Brad, it's been interesting and some for me. I have a great admiration for people who can put across message clearly, concisely, and demonstrate such depth of knowledge and wisdom. And all of that you have from my perspective. And all power to your elbow with what you're doing for people out there, whether it be, you know, directly to them face to face or across this wonderful sort of internet. You've opened my eyes, and as I say, I have the greatest respect for people who talk words of wisdom and can actually get it out there on an understandable human level. So it's been absolutely fascinating. There were parts with me, I held my hands up, that my jury was out for a little while, but I listened courteously and I assimilated and I come to my own conclusions. And I'm with you, and thank you, and I look forward to engaging with you again at some point.
Well, thank you, and I thank you guys for putting on a great show, a great program like this. You know, information like this needs to get out, so we're all just doing our part to really being able to, again, get into that unity, share our light, and share this with everybody. And everybody else, again, you make the show part of what it is, so it's all thanks to all of us that make this moment, this co-creation, as beautiful it is, so thank you for that.
Yes, and thank you. Thank you, and we'll do it again. All right, thanks everyone for participating. It's been great. Your questions were wonderful, and hopefully we will see you all back here next week. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Good night. Namaste.
Bye.